For weeks, rescue crews coordinated by Italian authorities have been working around the clock to save hundreds of migrants at a time from rickety wooden boats and inflatable dinghies drifting in the Mediterranean Sea. Although thousands have lost their lives, more keep coming.
Beginning in early May, the Royal Navy dispatched the ship you see behind me, the HMS Bulwark, to help the Italian Navy and Coast Guard in rescue missions in the Mediterranean. In the latest operation, which began at dawn yesterday and ended after 11 p.m. last night, they were able to save about 1,000 people seeking a better life in Europe from war-torn countries in Africa and the Middle East. These 1,000 people that were just rescued are only a small fraction of the 50,000 or more people that have landed in Italy as refugees just this year, triggering a huge political debate across Europe.
Speaking on the dock of the port of Catania, the British captain leading the latest mission describes the conditions of those who are disembarking behind him.
We've seen some very, very young children reaching up to grandparents. We've seen males and females, fit, not so fit. We've seen some disease, we've seen dehydration. So we have a very broad mix of those who require medical attention and those who actually just need some water and some rest.
Once they step off the boat, the migrants have to endure a more thorough medical examination. They are then identified by Italian police, who log them with a white bracelet, take their photo, and in most cases record their fingerprints. Pozzallo, on the southern coast of Sicily, a group of nearly 200 migrants, mostly from sub-Saharan Africa, has been housed at a local reception center since their arrival last week. They all sleep in bunk beds or on the floor, in a single gymnasium-sized room. The FT was granted access to the facility, which sits next to the port along the sea, just as many of the refugees are preparing for their afternoon prayer.
Allora, il gruppo che attualmente viene accolto all'interno di questa struttura ha fatto ingresso qui il venerdì, un gruppo è entrato il venerdì, un altro gruppo è entrato il sabato. Attualmente ne abbiamo 198 ospiti. Nel frattempo le attività che si fanno qui dentro sono un'attività connessa al servizio sanitario e quindi cercare di dare e garantire a tutti gli ospiti un'assistenza primaria, un'assistenza sanitaria e verificare le loro le condizioni di salute.
As well as physical exhaustion and mental fatigue from the trip, many of the migrants are grappling with the uncertainty about what happens next.
Si je peux, je voulais aller en Allemagne. Je n'ai pas de contact là-bas, mais c'est là-bas que je préfère.
Not only did many of the refugees escape very difficult conditions in their home countries, but in many cases they also faced imprisonment, forced or unpaid labor, and beatings in Libya, their point of departure for Europe.
La Libye est trop compliquée. La Libye monde c'est très dur. Parce qu'ils nous exploitent, ils nous frappent tous les moments. Tu ne peux pas dormir la nuit, tu ne peux pas faire ce que tu veux. Parce qu'eux, ils ont l'habitude de tirer les balles seulement, les fusils. Par rapport à nous, on ne connaît pas ça. C'est ça qui nous a fait inquiets là-bas. Il nous a traités mal. La vie de Libye, c'est très compliqué.
On est très fatigué dans la route. Les Maliens, on nous frappe, on prend notre argent. Les Burkinabés aussi et les Nigériens. On prend notre argent ou bien nos portables, les hommes de tenue. Ça, c'est pas normal quand même.
Un jour, avec ma famille, il y a des gens qui sont venus me frapper, regarde. Ils m'ont blessé. J'ai des haies avec les fusils. C'est à cause de ça que j'ai pris mes familles pour sortir. J'ai quitté là-bas pour my life. My life.
We see also a lot of consequences of violence that they suffer all over the migration way, let's say, since the origin country. in the desert and then again in Libya, both in the detention center but also outside. So we see, for example, a lot of fracture, orthopedic problem, wounds, burns, clearly due to violence or sometimes really torture that they have gone through. Or sometimes even sexual violence, consequences of sexual violence, mainly in women but also in men.
Although they have finally reached European shores, their journey is by no means over. Many of the migrants still face huge challenges in fulfilling their dreams. Being granted asylum status in the country they wish will be very difficult, as many nations are facing pressure to tighten their immigration laws. Meanwhile, finding a job on a continent that is suffering from its own deep economic problems is far from certain. James Politi, Financial Times in Sicily.